Hello Safari fans and welcome to Safari TV. Tonight we're making Atholl Brose. Now don't worry, you haven't clicked on the wrong video. It's very similar to Bailey's Irish Cream. It tastes fantastic, but we're going to show you something that's a little bit nicer, a little bit healthier. Give it a go. Okay, so tonight we're going to need a funnel, a bit of cheesecloth, if you've got some of that lying around, good luck to you. A bit of cheap honey, not expensive honey. About 400 millilitres of water. Some very attractive drinking glasses, about a cup and a half of oats, an empty glass bottle that's hopefully clean, and some whiskey. Right, so the original recipe for Atholl Brose goes back to about 1745. Apparently the Earl of Atholl used this stuff to defeat a franchise of the McDonald's. As with all histories, it tells you something happened. What really happened, who knows. The story is that the Earl of Atholl put some honey, whiskey and some oats in a well. The McDonald's clan found this stuff, and after they'd had a little feast on that, they fell asleep, and they were quite easy to defeat. We're not going to be defeating anyone tonight. If you want to make this into a Bailey's Irish Cream thing, you can forego the oats and do it with cream. There's another version of this where you can put in about 200 mils of cream. It doesn't keep as long, it's using cream, which is not that nice to me, to be honest with you. Stay tuned and we'll show you what we're talking about. It'll be a lot easier to show you than explain it to you. What you're going to need is about a cup and a half of oats. If you just put them into some sort of bowl or dish. We're going to be soaking this in about 400 millilitres of cold water. Let me just pour that in there. Give it a little stir around. Now, ideally if you can leave this in the fridge overnight to soak, that's fantastic. If not, the minimum I would leave it for is maybe half an hour. So these oats have been soaking for about 24 hours in the fridge. I've also got another thing that I'm trying here, and this is a bit of an experiment. If it's a complete disaster, keep an eye in the description and we'll let you know how this one went. So this is just the 400 ml of water, cup and a half of oats. This is a double shot of espresso poured in so that the watery amount comes up to 400, done with the same sort of thing. So we're going to be making a coffee in a traditional version here. The next thing we're going to add into our clean glass bottles is around about 50 millilitres or 3 tablespoons of honey. Honey is notoriously difficult to pour, so we'll see how this goes. It's going to take a while to seep through there, but I'm guessing that's roughly about 300 mils. 300 mils, right? 50 mils. Like I said before, this is cheap honey. Expensive honeys or decent honeys tend to be quite flavoursome. A lot of people say they don't like honey, but that tends to be if you're going for something nice. If you just go for plain cheap honey, they're not overly flavoured, but it's nice healthy sugar to be getting, and it's full of things at the bottom of the screen that I don't know about. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is make our brose. Now this is the reason that we don't really need cream. We're kind of going to make an oat milk here. The stuff that we've got here, some of the oaty starchiness has come out of there. We're going to put it through a clean tea towel this time. You can use cheesecloth, you could put it in a sieve and let it drain, but you're going to have to squeeze it at some point to get all the goodness out of it. So pretty much I'm just going to lay that over the top of here. Put a little dip in it so it doesn't go running out straight away. As you can imagine, that's going to take quite a while to drain, so what we do is squeeze the life out of it. Right, so that's about as much of the liquid as we're going to get out. Inside you'll be left with a little dryish oaty pulp in there, which one day I'm going to try and figure out how I can make oatcakes out of that, but I haven't quite done it yet. So we've ended up with roughly about 300 millilitres. There's still a bit of the water might have evaporated over the 24 hours, and there'll still be a little bit of water left in the oats themselves. So what we need to do now is just add that brose to the honey there. Probably going to need, I should have said, a glass bottle with a lid on it, because at this stage, just while there's space to give it a good vigorous shake, we're going to mix the honey and the brose together. Give it a good shakalaka shake. Vigorous, vigorous. Right, now to keep this ultra traditional, what I'm going to do is add some twigs instead of cream, nice and healthy. Make sure your twigs are nice and clean, you know where they came from. These ones came from Glen Affric up in the Highlands, probably one of the most beautiful glens in Scotland. And I always chuck a few twigs in. So we know we've got 300 mils of water in there, we've got 50 mils of honey in there. So I'm going to add the whiskey. I'm only going to add about 300 ml just so there's a bit of space to give that honey a shake again. It may settle once it's been made, so every so often it'll need a little shake about. Because we're not putting the cream in, it's going to last quite a while with the alcohol. It's going to end up being roughly about 20% by volume. If you were adding cream, you'd have to keep it in the fridge and it would only last for maybe a week or so. You don't need to use a wonderful whiskey for this. Any sort of cheap whiskey's absolutely fine. This is an old bottle I've had lying about for a while, so we'll chuck this in. So again, once it gets to that stage, just give it a lovely little shake. We're just going to repeat the Brose process with our coffee version. It smells lovely actually. If you're not a fan of coffee and you can think of something else to flavour it with, although I can't really think of anything that would be quite as nice, just let us know what you did in the comments below. As usual, if you're enjoying this video, if you hit that little thumbs up button at the bottom of the screen, that really helps us. If you hate this video, hit the thumbs down. And if you want to see more of our recipes, we don't just do recipes of course, we do sort of reviews of products and events and things. We do all sorts of stuff really. If you want to see more, click the subscribe button and those videos will show up in your search a little bit more. And it'll let YouTube know that you care. Let us know that you care. So we care. Don't forget that first shake. The honey can tend to stick to the bottom, especially if you've had it in there for a few minutes. So give it a good little mix around. That's a good start for the steak. The steak? The steak. Steak. I'm not making a steak. That's a good start for the coffee one. I'm just again going to add a couple of twigs. These are purely optional, and if you die, find twigs from somewhere special to you, you know, somewhere nice. You having funnel? You having funnel soon? Oh, hey! Right, so again, we're just going to add roughly about 300 millilitres of whiskey to this. Leaving just a little bit of space at the top there for another shake. Now, if you were going the cream route, I would only use about 200 millilitres of water to soak your oats in. Soak your wild oats. And then just before you add the whiskey, add the cream at that stage. That would be an ideal time, about 200 millilitres of cream again. So that's our traditional Atholl Brose, and that's our coffee version of it. So the next thing to do is to try it. Yes, indeed. Alright, so here we go. Here we go. Luckily there's no alcohol in that, that's just the oats. Like I said, this will be roughly about sort of 20% volume, which is slightly more than Bailey's. I think Irish creams are about 17.5 or so. You can make it as strong as you want. If it's a little bit too sweet for you, which it shouldn't be, you can always just change those ratios around a little bit. So it smells, it's got a little hint of a tang to it. I know a lot of people don't, or say they don't like whiskey, they just haven't tried the right whiskey maybe, but it's not overly strong. Bailey's of course does use Irish whiskey. This is Scottish whiskey, but Bailey's uses Irish whiskey, so if you like Bailey's, you'll like this. It's not quite as thick as Bailey's, it's It's a little bit more liquidic, but it is absolutely lovely. It's just got a hint of sweetness, but it's not overly poweringly sweet. I've been a bit daft about this. I should just say, that's lovely. The twigs make all the difference. It's got that lovely effervescent woody tinge to it. Not really. It's just a really nice drink. Great for winter, a little winter warmer for you. It's like an ideal gift for Christmas, you know. A little bit of whiskey, an old plastic bottle. Of course, it's always better to reuse than recycle. Next I'm going to try the coffee one now. I've never made this before. I just had a little idea about doing it the other day. I suspect it'll be very subtly coffee-ish because I've put in a double espresso into the equivalent of, well, quite a lot, but we'll see. The coffee comes through, but it seems to have sort of highlighted the toastiness of the oats as well on the smell, on the nose. Not overly sweet on the nose either, but we'll go. And this is a proper little snifter glass. It's ideal for tasting whiskies. I think it needs a second sip. It's not quite right, to be honest with you. It's the coffee's sort of cut out all the nice subtle little bits and pieces that are going on in that one, the lightness of it. It's a lot heavier of a drink, but I don't think there's enough coffee in there to make it a nice, decently coffee sort of flavoured drink. You don't drink it and think coffee. So if I was going to make that again, I would probably add another double shot of espresso to it. In fact, what I'm probably going to do is make up a double shot of espresso, let it cool down, use as little liquid as I can with that, and chuck it in this bottle, and I'll let you know how that goes in the description, because that's a bit of a time thing, although I will be filming tomorrow as well, I think. So we're going to be doing some introductions to our sauces. It's coming up to Christmas, so bye. So if you're a fan of coffee, give that a little go. Maybe check our description and I'll see if I can work out the amount of coffee that needs to go into it. If you're not, if you like Baileys, even if you don't like whiskey, if you want something that's just a little bit different or interesting, definitely give that a go. It's a great thing to have sitting on your shelf. It'll keep for quite a long time, and like I said, ideal Christmas gift. So slàinte mhath, and we'll see you next time. It's lovely, the coffee ones.
I want to try a little bit actually. You're not the coffee one, isn't it?